to talk to you about when your vision is attacked by the inner me, okay? See, we want to blame the enemy, the E-N-E-M-Y, for everything, right? But you know what? We will boot the devil. We say the devil is a lie in a quick minute, right? But when the inner me, I-N-N-E-R-M-E, is working in your life, the enemy, E-N-E-M-Y, has nothing to do, right? So first, let me tell you a little bit about me, since Pastor Mark didn't do his job this morning. I'll tell you a little bit about me. No, I really did tell him not to do that, y'all, so don't let Pastor Carey get on him. So here's a little about me. I'm an associate professor of research in the Jinping Su College of Public Health at Georgia Southern University. I have a doctorate in public health, a master's degree in community health, a bachelor's degree in kinesiology. I am the principal investigator of a $9.8 million grant. It has 14 sites in 8 different states. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Journal of the Georgia Public Health Association. I'm the director of research for the Sickle Cell Community Consortium. I run my own business, Dr. Raymona Lawrence Coaching, LLC, where I do diversity, equity, and inclusion coaching and consulting for women who lead diverse teams as well as companies that need diversity training. I have been certified to teach multiple forms of exercise. I've run a half marathon. I've been married for 20 years almost to George. I have 2 kids, a boy and a girl. I live in my dream home, and I have a pretty good life, right? So why am I telling you this, though? Why am I telling you all of this? Not to brag about me or get you to look at me, right? Clearly not. Because we often see people who've been successful and we think that success equals easy. But in reality, success does not equal easy. We see images on Facebook and Instagram and we wonder why we aren't living our dream lives. But often people aren't keeping it real, right? About the true trials and tribulations on the road to success. It certainly hasn't always been easy for me. See, my vision has been attacked both literally and figuratively. So let me take you back to April 28, 1978. So I put a 44 up there because I know how we are, and you're going to be trying to subtract 22 from 78, and I don't want you to take the time to do that. So I'm 44, okay? I'm 44. So today, that was the day that I was born. I was cute, chunky, and had big old dimples, yes. And with a chronic genetic disorder called sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell is a disease that causes unpredictable bouts of extreme pain, organ damage, and honestly, it's mentally exhausting. Having a child with sickle cell disease was a surprise to my parents. And my dad tells the story of riding down the road and asking God why his baby had to be born with this terrible disease. And then God clearly speaking to him and saying, "When did I say she had sickle cell?" I remember being about 5, and my dad took me to the doctor. I remember swinging my feet off the chair and hearing the doctor tell my dad she might not be able to run with the other kids, and she might not graduate from school on time. My dad seemed a little disheartened by the words the doctor said, but I remember thinking, I can't run with the other kids because they don't run fast enough. So, attack of the inner me, number 1. You internalize the limits of man and not the manufacturer. So, think about your car, okay? So, most of you, we say, what's on the dash, right? What's on the dash of your car? So, when I say what's on the dash, I'm talking about the speed limit that it says the car will go, right? So it's usually like 100, 120, 130, 40. Some of y'all got some 180 on the dash, right? But have you ever ever driven that car at 140? You shouldn't have. George probably has, but nobody else should have done that, right, on the road. So when you look out on the road, one of the highest speed limits we have is 70, right? So that's a man-made restriction, half the potential of the vehicle. So you drive at 70 within the man-made limit when the manufacturer made your vehicle with the capability to function at 140. So in your life, God gives you a vision and says, look at all the things I have in store for you. And then man says, you can't have all that. You don't have enough education. You don't have enough money. You're too old. You're the wrong race. You don't have enough skills. And then you start walking through life at half the potential because you internalize the limits of man and not the manufacturer. So Psalms 139 and 13, it says, for you formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you. I am fearfully and wonderfully made, right? And Matthew 19:26 says, with man this is impossible, but with God all, not some, all things are possible. So maybe you used to be excited. You used to be on fire about your vision. You were operating at 140, right, miles per hour, but now you're only running 70 max, maybe 55, even 35. No matter how old you are, there is a call on your life. It doesn't need a certificate. It doesn't need a diploma. You're not going to have all the qualifications that man put on the job description. You are not going to look the part. You might not sound like everybody else sounds that did it before, but the call on your life is so strong, you can't let it go, and that's why you can't rest, because it's time to take the limits off. Attack of the enemy number 2. You're holding on to vision hostages. When you have a dream or a vision, all the little how bad do you want it elves will pop out and they seem to conspire against you, right? So somebody gets sick, how bad do you want it? You have a financial issue pop up. How bad do you want it? You don't get the job you applied for or the 10th one. How bad do you want it? You can't seem to find clients when you start your new business. How bad do you want it? People start to talk about you. How bad do you want it? So let me add this. Dogs don't run after parked cars. Let me say it again. Dogs don't run after parked cars. So if they barking, you moving. A car doesn't stop to acknowledge a dog that's running beside it, right? So you just drive faster. So quit stopping to make a post, a comment, putting your dream and vision on hold when folk are talking about you. Keep it moving. So you all have probably heard many times that when God called you to do whatever it is he has for you, it wasn't a conference call. So in this day and time, I'll add, it wasn't a Zoom, it wasn't a WebEx, it wasn't a Microsoft Teams meeting or a Google Hangout, okay? God gave it to you so other people might not see it immediately, and some of those people will be your friends and family. But you have to be so committed to that vision that nothing can stop it from coming forth. When I was pregnant with Gigi, I went to the doctor, and the doctor read that I have sickle cell, and the first thing she said to me when she walked in the room was, "This is a disaster. Beware. Be prepared. Someone will try to steal your joy concerning your vision when it's in its infancy stage. If the enemy can steal your joy, then the enemy will take over and do the work for the rest of your life. Watch out for this. So a couple of days later, another doctor did an ultrasound and he said, there's nothing there. We don't see anything and there's no heartbeat. He said I needed to come back on Monday, and if there was still nothing there, I would need to have a DNC. But I was so committed to that vision of what was inside me that I never wavered. I said, well, where did the baby go then? I couldn't understand it. Where did the baby go? So sometimes really smart people or people in your family will look at you and say, there's nothing there. But if God said it, you better believe it and stand on it, because people will cause you to abort a God-given vision and make you settle for less just because they couldn't see it. So fast forward to today, with what they said was not there is now 15 years old, a straight A student, and spending up all my money. So here's another thing. Some of you think that people have to co-sign on your vision for it to come to pass. Not so. You keep casting your pearls to the swine, trying to convince people, most of the time in your family, to buy into your vision. You know why they don't buy into it? You move your lips and not your feet. They hear talk, but they never hear results. You jump from idea to idea, never completed anything, and you expect them to believe you this time, right? So John Maxwell talks about bruised trees. So picture your backyard, you have all of these trees, and you take your axe and you go and hit the tree, one tree. You go to the next tree, hit the tree. You go to the next tree, hit the tree. You keep doing that until you get to the end of all trees. You turn around in your yard and you look back, and all you see is a bunch of bruised trees. You never hit one long enough to make any difference to knock it down. So that's what's happening in our life, is that we are doing things here and there and there. We never hit at it long enough. We never pray on it long enough. We never take enough consistent action to do one thing and to knock it down. So don't have all of these bruised trees. Hit one long enough to knock it down, right? So here's the thing. Focus, focus, focus. The enemy's greatest wish is that you lose focus, because focus creates momentum, and momentum creates power. You gotta focus. So what is a vision hostage? A vision hostage is holding someone hostage to long-term vision when they were only put in your life for short-term purpose. So you all remember the story of Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah. And Naomi had these two daughter-in-laws, and her sons died. You know, there was a tragic situation here, right? So she was telling them, go, please go. I have nothing left for you, right? You all know this story. So in Ruth 1:14 through 16, it says that then they lifted up their voices and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. And she said, look, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law. But Ruth said, entreat me not to leave you or to turn back from following after you. For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Ruth was destined to be in the lineage of Jesus. So if someone is tied to your destiny, they cannot leave you. If someone can walk away from you, let them go. Yes. Quit holding vision hostages. Not everybody is tied to your long-term vision. They may have been there in the very beginning, but they aren't tied to your long-term vision. If God allowed it, and God allowed them to walk away, let them go. Yes. So, attack of the enemy number 3. Your vision is clouded by other people's gifts. So we also always say that comparison is the stealer of all joy. So if you're tall, short, thin, plump, black, white, Latinx, every detail of you was planned by God. And he doesn't make mistakes. In this Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat kind of world, many people try to imitate fake success. We need for you to actually be living the life you post about. It kills me to hear people say, oh, I'm going to go get a doctorate like you. My question is, why? Is that part of your purpose? I need a doctoral degree to fulfill my purpose in life. If you don't need one, don't go through that legalized hazing. It's not necessary. You don't want to go there. Don't do it, okay? It's not worth it. So do you, right? Sometimes we're so busy trying to imitate the gifts of somebody else that we can't see the special things that God has given specifically to us. So you struggle, you feel imposter syndrome because you're impersonating somebody else. And it's the small things that you take for granted that God is really trying to show you about your own life. For example, God showed me that I have the gift of patience with people who are processing diversity, equity, and inclusion. To me, it's such a small thing, but I noticed that people would come ask me questions, and I wouldn't get irritated like other people do with answering those things and helping people to process that. So my approach to what I do in my business is very patient and non-judgmental. So what is that thing for you? There's something. What is that for you? You might be overlooking it. Here's another way your vision could be clouded by other people's gifts. You got caught up with someone who was both anointed and insecure. Let me let that sink in. You got caught up with someone who was both anointed and insecure. So see, a person who is anointed and insecure can see your gifts and will try to shut them down because they feel that your gifts threaten their gifts, and then you walk around with what we call church hurt. You thought that your gifts weren't of value, but the enemy recognized the threat, and you let the inner me internalize the hurt, and now you're operating well below God's best. Attack of the inner me number 4. You fear you are inadequate. You have everything inside you to succeed. You come from strength. Now, I'm about to talk to some of my older, wiser saints with a vision right now. You might still be thinking, oh, she's talking to the younger folks, or I don't understand all this computer stuff and these TikToks or Instagram or even Facebook. It's too late for me to realize my vision. The world has changed so much since I was young. Well, old school, you know how. You know how I know that you have everything inside you to succeed. You know how, Sister Ethel? Because some of y'all had a praying grandma who didn't have technology or even the resources that you have right now. So my grandma's name was Mary, and then I had one named Edna. Pastor Carey told us about a couple of weeks ago about Lois, who was Timothy's grandmother. But whatever your grandmother's name was, I know that whether or not you came from a rich family, a poor family, a black, white, Hispanic family, she didn't have all of the resources you have now. And many of your grandmas knew how to make something from nothing. Talk to me old school. All right. See, her lessons were far deeper than taking lemons and making lemonade. No, in the depths of her time working in fields, she learned how to take what some considered the waste of hogs and make heavenly ham for her family. She can take a crumb and make a cake. She can take a seed and make a family. She can take a broken, abandoned child and raise a doctor, a lawyer, a preacher, the president of the United States. In other words, Grandma taught us how to adapt regardless of the situation. She taught us to thrive even in the face of opposition. See, Grandma didn't just give you a fish. She taught you how to fish. Because she would say, baby, if you give too much too fast, folks will fall in love with your hands and not your heart. So Grandma didn't just teach us cookie cutter recipes because she knew that she might not have the resources or ingredients to make the dish the same exact way every single time and in every single situation. She taught frameworks. She empowered us to eat and feed our families no matter what resources are available. See, y'all can't hardly work with other people these days, but Grandma was the master of team building. She went beyond duplication of the little resources she had and was an expert at multiplication, although she might not have even had a high school education. And Grandma took all her lessons from the Word of God. So tell me, church, what are your 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread? Old school is more than enough. It's not too late. Have you ever considered that God's promises to you may only come true to you in heaven, but might be manifest on earth in the life of your great-great-grandchildren? Your work is not in vain. God's promises are yes and amen. So what is required for God to multiply your gifts? You have to give them to him, right? It's simple, right? How do we get our gifts multiplied? We give them to him. And we also have to trust him. Luke 12:11-12 says, when they bring you before the synagogues, the rulers and the authorities, do not worry about how you are to defend yourselves or what you are to say, for the Holy Spirit will teach you at that very hour what you ought to say. So we are often like, what do I say? These people are smarter than me. They have more education. What am I going to do when I get in this situation? What do I do, Lord? I don't have this. I don't have that. You only need the Holy Spirit, right? Yes. So attacking the enemy, number 5. You function within the vision of who you are and not who you will be. So we often pray to God and we say, oh God, enlarge my territory. Enlarge my territory. Oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory. But we're not faithful in the little things. And maybe you've never fully committed to anything in your entire life. Let's think about that. Are you just working off pure talent and you've never truly poured yourself in your work, your education, your kids, your marriage, your God? So a few years ago, God was really telling me to get my morning routine together. So I would start waking up early in the morning. So I would wake up at like 4 a.m. And I did this for 10 years at least, 10 or more years, right? I would just constantly be getting up and I would be thinking, Oh, I am tired. Why am I getting up at 4? Then God said, get up at 3:30. You need a little bit more time. And I'm like, okay, God, woo, help me. 3:30. But I would have time to just read, pray, worship, do a little bit of work. I would get so much done, before 8 o'clock in the morning. And so, we're praying this prayer and we're saying, God, I don't understand why. And God is watching and seeing if we're faithful. And so, years later, God showed me why. So when we pray, enlarge my territory, bless me indeed, God, I said, oh, enlarge my territory. It's 3:30 a.m. on the East Coast, but it's 8:30 a.m. in the United Kingdom. Somebody's going to catch that in a minute. So, if you want to work on a global scale, some of the people that I work with, they're up at 3:30 for me, is 8:30 for them, right? So when you say enlarge my territory, God was preparing me to be able to get up, be coherent on a Zoom at 3:30 or 4 in the morning if I needed to, because it wasn't that early in the United Kingdom. So it's some little thing that God is telling you to do, and he's preparing you, but you keep stopping, and you're not prepared. You don't have the muscle yet to get up and do what God says. So catch this. Years after I was getting up, 3:30, 4 in the morning, my business coach and copywriter, they live in the UK, that's 5 hours ahead. My graphic designer and my virtual assistant is in the Philippines. That's 12 hours ahead. So if I'm getting up late and I don't even get up until, let's say 8 o'clock, it's already 8 p.m. for them. So I'm losing a lot of time, right? And my business accountability partner lives in Dubai, that's 8 hours ahead of the U.S. So asking God to enlarge your territory, but only working on U.S. time is not going to get you where God is his best, right? So we got to be faithful over a few things, so God will then give us the bigger things, the many. So if you think that one little thing that God told you to do is not worth it, it is. He's preparing you. So attack of the inner me, number 6. You forgot that to whom much is given, much is required. So Jeremiah 12:5, it says, if thou hast run with the footmen and they have wearied thee, then how canst thou contend with horses? So what's that mean? We want the vision, but we tire easily, don't we? We start in the gym, go a couple of days, and then we stop. We start a business, start posting, making videos, then we stop. We start getting up early to read and pray and spend more time with God, then we stop, right? The space between where we are and the vision God gave us is process. We have to go through the process because the process builds character. If you wonder why you keep taking one step forward and 2 steps back, it might be because you're skipping parts of the process. If you skip the process, the weight of the next level will crush you. So that's why God hasn't allowed it yet. Our social media world has young people waiting to jump into the best job, the finest car, the biggest house. People have long, luscious lashes, but their life is a mess. They have hair to their waist, but hell in their hearts. Their nails are longer than their patience and in shapes like stilettos and coffins. Now, I went to the nail shop the other day, y'all, and I said, what is a coffin? Y'all have coffins for y'all's nail shape now? Coffins? I do not understand. Y'all, somebody update me on that later. You know what that is, Pastor Mark? So people have big toys and big engines, but bruised egos and broken hearts. People insist on wearing name brand clothes, shoes, and purses. And they're so attached to what it looks like to wear someone else's name and can't even tell you what they want people to think when they hear their own name. Make it make sense. You don't need to wear another name brand until you can tell somebody what you stand for. It's too hard to keep up. Trends change, the lingo changes, technology changes, but people change, but thank God, Hebrews 13:8 says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Stick with God. Come on. So, attack of the inner me, number 7. This is the last one. You forgot that all things work together for the good. Romans 8:28, it says, and we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are the called according to his purpose. And here's how I know. A company who serves individuals with sickle cell disease needed diversity, equity, and inclusion and community engagement training. They contacted me and they asked me to give them a proposal. I went back and forth about what to charge them. I asked my husband, other people who are consultants, and then I called a friend who said, Raymona, with your skill set, that should be a 6-figure contract. I said, whoo, for a one-day training? She said, yes. So I prayed and I was like, Lord, are these people going to think I'm crazy when I submit this contract to them? So I started bargaining and I was like, okay, God, I will charge $78,000 because I was born in 78. That feels good to me. And I heard God say clearly, and yep, now it's 2022, so add 22 to that. I'm like, oh, Lord, that gets us back to 100K. Oh, no. So I trembled a bit, and I hit send and just stepped out on faith. I met with a lady a few days later, and she said, everything looks good. I just need to negotiate it a little bit because we have to do another training in a few months. So I got a contract for nearly an entire year's salary for a one-day training. But wait, I'm about to mess you up with this. Let me tell you why. Because I'm probably the only person in the world with the following skill set: a doctorate in public health, formal diversity, equity, and inclusion training. I run a nearly $10 million sickle cell disease grant, and I actually have sickle cell disease. That's lived experience. You can't go to school for that. That is God. When I tell you he turns it around and he is working it for your good. So listen, I go to the bank and I knew that I wouldn't be able to write a check to myself to transfer the money to the bank at a different bank. So I try to do the right thing and I go and get a certified cashier's check. I get to the bank and the teller looks at the amount and looks me up and down and says, people make fraudulent cashier's checks all the time. I'll need to call the bank and verify this. So I didn't get mad. I just kind of sat there and I thought in my mind, fine, I'll wait. And let me tell you who to call. Romans, extension 828. Call that. Verify that. But let me tell you, that came at the hardest time in my life. My vision was literally attacked. I was just getting diagnosed with retinopathy from sickle cell disease. And what happens with retinopathy is that, with sickle cell disease, your cells can change shape anywhere in your body. So in my eyes, I had sickle cell crises in my eyes. You can't feel it. You don't know it's happening. But when I went to the doctor, they said, we've got to do some intervention. This can cause blindness eventually. So I had to start getting shots in my eyes, directly in my eyes. And laser surgery, my husband would have to drive me back and forth to Augusta every couple of weeks to get this treatment. And I was like, Lord, goodness, what is going on? This is just, it's tough. It's hard. I would still have to go and teach. I would have to get on those Zooms. I would have to do all these things, still pushing, wondering, when am I going to have the breakthrough in my business? When am I going to have this, Lord? When am I going to have this, Lord? Why? At that time, I also had TMJ so bad I could hardly open my mouth. There was pain in the nerve in my ear that was running through so bad that I just could hardly speak. And so that's why I hadn't sung on the praise team as much, because I couldn't even open my mouth for a little while. I would sit there out in the pew and just, like, the pain from the nerve was so bad. So my eye was hurting, my jaw was hurting, and then my mom was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer. So my vision was attacked, my voice was attacked, and my heart was attacked, all at the same time. So here's the thing. It's working together for your good. There's times when you are going to be like, why do I have this disease? Why do I have this illness? Why is this thing just working on me? But here's the thing. It's working for your good. I don't know why I had to be born with sickle cell disease, but I know that at the end of the day, I had a very specific qualification for this company that nobody else can dream of. You can't go work that. You can't go get it in education. He took what the enemy